Yeah, and what we want to talk about is exterior water and freezing because we've talked about everything else how water gets in, but we didn't really touch too much on exterior. And over the years, when folks, I don't think folks realize when you have that water problem, maybe in an exterior wall or something, and that water freezes with winter, it can burst the concrete or the rock, can it not?
Oh yeah, no, it's 100%. I mean, we deal with this typically March and April every year. It's the power of that ice expansion or that water expansion when it's frozen. And if you do have, it actually really doesn't. I mean, stone and brick are the biggest culprit. Concrete. I mean, any kind of hard dense surface like that. I mean, it can do it to a siding house too if you get enough ice lensing that can build it behind. But generally speaking, you know, it's a good idea every 3 to 5 years to have have things like looked at and inspected at least because I'm sure we've all seen the mortar joints that fall out. And I was at a customer's job the other day, and I mean, and this one was extreme, but the wall had kind of been incorrectly done in the 80s, block wall, and I mean, not drastically incorrect, just incorrect enough, and they had it's on a driving rain side when this area Brantford gets driving rains. I mean, it just hammers this side. So all the water was actually getting in between the block and actually filling the block wall with water to the extent that it couldn't get out because the basement's finished on the inside, spray foamed, and the exterior had been all parged, to clean up the blocks. So the water was actually filling this whole thing. Well, after 4 winters of this issue occurring, the wall had actually, because of the ice pressure and it freezing, that had bowed out 6 inches to the point where the wall above it, the framing wall, was sitting on nothing. So it actually bowed out
Pulled it
past
right off.
the support, yeah, and
Oh
and
boy.
thus it was making it work. And then so every year it bowed out an inch more, so a little bit more water could get into it. So now that's an extreme problem. But had they been able to just even throw a piece of aluminum capping over it to slow down the amount of water going into it, it wouldn't be near to as. So now it's like underpinning. We have to jack up the house, and re-pour a wall. We're going to take all the block out and re-pour a wall underneath it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
So
mean,
that's the extreme
that's an
case.
extreme one, but I mean, that's not the first time I've seen that.
And like you said, I mean, if you have any indication when you see that, you've got to go look and find that area where it's coming from, right? And
Right.
seal that off as quick as possible.
Right.
I don't think a lot of folks like I think you look oh, I think you look at it, but you don't really know what's going on. So I think folks sometimes don't understand how important it is to call someone like you to get that looked at and
Yep.
to make sure that it's going to be able to be fixed. I'm surprised too. In my own experience, I found like you. I know this whole series on water. It can go anywhere, anytime it wants, and you brought up a great point. It depends on how your house is facing because that side of the house that gets just annihilated
Mm-hmm.
with rain is going to have the bigger problems all the time,
Yep.
folks. And that's the other thing. So when it freezes and then the springtime comes and it starts to show all these cracks, should you be alleviating that? Like you said, how do you alleviate that to make sure? Do you reseal the area, let it dry out, reseal the area, and then reseal the cracks?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't, again, I mean, I know a lot of this stuff is sort of budget based, and so I mean, you want to do the best you can. If you suspect there's still water there, i.e., like there's dampness in a basement, dampness on a main floor. I mean, that doesn't seem to ever go away. It's probably being fed by something like a cavity, or I mean, it would be a leak that's feeding a cavity, and then it just slowly bleeds into the. So I mean, you want it. There's a number of things that we can do, and really, it's not a lot of money. Like for us to come out and kind of do a pro builder inspection on a certain section. I mean, it's really not a whole lot of money, and we can kind of get you down the right path, whether or not you do it or not. It's totally up to you. But the whole thing is if it was something like what I just spoke about, I mean, we could have drilled 5 or 6 pilot holes in the bottom of that wall and had those blocks drain out, and then put a couple fans in there, dry it out, and then, like I said, put a capping on it to at least stop where the water was getting down the front face of the block.
Right.
I mean, you do want, I'm not saying these things are easy to find. Sometimes it's to the point where you got to wait for the big rainstorm and then just sit there and watch. But I mean, the garden hose works the same way. I mean, if you suspect it, get somebody up there spraying, like just spray it. I mean, sit there for half an hour and feed it full of water. I mean, at this point, you're not going to make it any worse, and see if you can determine that. I mean, that's how we do it. 99% of the time, we'll just garden hose it, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can pay you now or pay you later, right? Like,
yep.
I mean, it just get out in front of these problems that are small before they get to the point where it's causing major house damage. Do a lot of insurance companies cover that, Justin?
They generally won't cover the inspection unless they're doing it. But
I gotcha.
But if if we determine it's an issue, we can tell you what the severity is, and if it's a legitimate leak, then 100%. I haven't found one that doesn't cover it. I mean, it has to be worthy, but yeah, generally, so like we can write out a report on one of our letterheads saying like, hey, we've done the inspections, and again, these inspections are like anywhere from $100 to $399 depending on how long I got to be there for or whatnot. But we can write it out, and then they can say, hey, I've had this contractor assess this, and this is where I'm at. And if they want to send one of their dudes at that point, then fine. I mean, typically that's at no charge to you, but just to confirm it. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, that claim will go through.
And that's something else down the road we should probably investigate further with the insurance claims, because that's a big ball of wax. And I know you probably don't really look forward to getting into that, but that's something on another show we should talk about.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I had another one of those this week. We had a toilet flood, and they were debating. I did that Monday morning at 5:30. They had a toilet actually crack. One of the elderly. They have an elderly mother. She likes to flush the toilet with her cane. And she actually split she hit the handle so hard it split the tank. and she didn't even realize it.
I shouldn't laugh. Yeah.
Right. And anyways, but long story short, I mean, that was one of those times where, I'm like, it is. But by the time you do the deductible and everything, I think we can get it fixed up for you for a couple $100 more than the insurance. So they didn't end up going through it. But yeah, that's another whole ball of wax in itself.
And that's kind of an interesting story. So be careful with those canes, folks.
I mean, those are like 4 or 5 a week. I'm just saying, it's the weirdest thing. Like it's those types of things. I mean, not everything is cut and dry. A shingle flies off and you get water in.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is homeowner habit that actually creates these. And again, and I've done honest to God, a 4-hour seminar on homeowner habits that actually create repair issues. And these people don't even know. I mean, including myself, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do things around the house and I'm like, what the hell happened there? And it's because I do a certain repetitive thing
right
every day to this one item, like a hose bib or the floor gets worn out. You know what I mean? Or one cabinet hinge is like absolutely smoked and the rest of them are brand new.
Yep.
Well, that's where the coffee is, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, and you and I both love our coffee, so there's no doubt there. And now I've got to go check mine. Now look what you did.
Right. But yeah, and it's not a homeowner error.
No,
it's just a habit that seems to wear certain things, and then your neighbor has no issue because they have different habits and so on. So I mean, yeah, and that's where the whole, and I mean, you could say this about cars, you could say this about your office, but I mean, that's where the whole, human nature thing comes into our interaction with our environments. I mean, we wreck stuff, and that the vast majority of why certain cars last longer, things on your house last longer. I mean, it's us, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but
You know what? You've given me a great idea for the next show. We're going to talk homeowner habits. I really like, when you said that though, it's like you wear certain letters off your computer, right? Like it's
Yep,
all that. And I think that's a
yep,
really good,
yep.
I think, you can give us some great examples and we can sort of touch base on, I think that's why maybe you buy those when your house is, completed, you buy a couple extra hinges, you buy a couple extra and store
Yeah,
them away because
yeah.
you're right.
Always spare tiles,
Yep.
all
Yep.
that kind of stuff.
All right, listen, you have a great weekend. Stay out of trouble, will you? And we'll
Yep,
chat
yep.
next
I'm gonna
Friday.
try to.
All right, take
Yeah, no,
care.
we'll do it again.